At my daughter's birthday, my brother laughed, tossing her drawing aside. Pointless. She won't amount to anything. I took her hand and left quietly. The next morning, Mom called in tears. Please call the bank. Your sister's loan just got denied. My daughter Mia turned 8 last Saturday. We did something small at my house. Just a few balloons, a homemade cake, her favorite macaroni and cheese, and some close family. She had been counting down the days, waking up early to decorate handmade cards for everyone. But she spent the most time on one thing, a drawing. It was a bakery she dreamed of owning someday. Pink walls, shelves full of cupcakes, a sign above the door that read Mia's Treats in bubble letters with customers lined up on the sidewalk. She used glitter pens, even glued a little fake jewel on the sign for sparkle. She folded it carefully, wrote Uncle Mark's name in shaky cursive on the outside, and gave it to him like it was gold. He barely glanced at it before tossing it on the table. Pointless. She won't amount to anything. No one said anything. Not my mom, who was sitting right next to him. Not my dad, who was pouring himself more coffee like it hadn't even happened. My sister Jenna was curled up on the couch with a fever, half asleep under a blanket, and probably missed the whole thing. Mia just stood there, still holding the corners of the paper, not sure if she should smile or cry. I didn't speak. I didn't ask for an apology. I just took her hand, picked up her coat, and left. The front door was still open when I pulled out of the driveway. The silence in the car was worse than anything he said. The next morning, I was folding laundry when my phone rang. It was Mom. I let it go to voicemail. She called again and again. On the fourth try, I picked up. She was crying. Please call the bank. Your sister's loan just got denied. I stood there for a second, holding one of Mia's socks in my hand. The loan. I'd completely forgotten. Jenna had mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, some pet grooming thing she wanted to start from a van. She had been saving up, but she needed more, and her credit wasn't enough. I told her I'd help co-sign if no one else could. She sounded so hopeful when she thanked me, but I never followed through. Mark didn't help. Mom and Dad said they weren't comfortable. Jenna got sick and never followed up with me. Now the loan was denied, and Mom was asking me to fix it. I didn't tell her what I had decided the night before, that I was done. Done pretending we were some loving family. Done carrying the weight for a brother who never lifted a finger unless there was a camera on him. Done trying to win the approval of parents who made excuses for him every time. I wasn't calling the bank, and I wasn't calling her back. Jenna would find out eventually, but I wasn't ready to explain yet. Not after what they did to Mia. Not after what they didn't do. This time, silence was the only answer they were going to get from me. Jenna didn't call me right away. A few days passed, maybe 4, before I finally got a text from her. Hey, not sure what happened with the bank. Just let me know if something came up. Hope Mia's okay. I didn't answer. I stared at the message, thinking about how her voice sounded last time we spoke. She was sick, curled up in her hoodie, apologizing for being too tired to help set up the cake. She didn't even see what happened with the drawing. I think for a while, that's what kept me from cutting her off earlier. But it wasn't about her. It was about me finally drawing a line. Mark had always been the golden boy, the one who could fail classes, drop out of college, crash Dad's truck, and somehow still be the smartest, most promising one in the room. My parents built him up like he was some misunderstood genius. When he got fired from 2 jobs in 1 year, Dad actually said it was because his mind was too sharp for basic office work. Meanwhile, when I was working 2 jobs, raising Mia by myself, and still sending them money every Christmas because Mom cried about her bills, they said I was responsible, like always, and moved on. That's what I was to them, the one who handled things, who didn't need praise, who didn't need defending. So when Mark tossed Mia's drawing and insulted her future like it was a joke, of course they said nothing, because they never held him accountable for anything. Not when he lost his last girlfriend over gambling. Not when he borrowed $900 from Jenna last year and never paid it back. Not even when he got drunk at Thanksgiving and called my daughter an accident. This time, though, it felt different. Mia didn't talk much after that day. She stopped bringing out her notebooks. The little girl who used to fill the kitchen table with crayons and paper started putting everything away before I even came in the room, like she was embarrassed to be excited about anything. That did something to me I didn't expect. It made me colder, harder, not angry, done. I stopped returning Mom's calls. I saw her name on my screen every morning like clockwork. First thing, always around 8:00 a.m. I used to pick up without thinking. But now all I felt was tired, like I'd spent 30 years carrying a weight that was never mine. And then it came. Saturday afternoon, I got a knock on the door. It was my dad. First time he'd shown up without calling in years. He didn't even ask to come in. He just said one thing. We need to talk about what you're doing to this family. Not what Mark did to Mia. Not why I left her birthday party without saying a word. Not why I hadn't returned their messages all week. Just that I was the problem now, because I was the one pulling away. I closed the door. 2 hours later, Mark posted a picture on Facebook. Him sitting poolside holding a drink, captioned, "Family first, always." And in the comments, my mom wrote, "Proud of you, honey, no matter what anyone says." I didn't screenshot it. I didn't need to. I remembered every word. Jenna showed up unannounced the following Tuesday. I hadn't told her not to come, but I hadn't responded to her messages either. She stood on my porch holding a paper bag of Thai food like she used to when we lived in that awful shared apartment in college. She looked tired, still pale from being sick, hair up in a messy bun, hoodie zipped to her neck like she was trying to keep from unraveling. I opened the door. Neither of us said hi. She just walked in and put the bag on the kitchen counter. The silence sat between us like a third person. Eventually, she said she'd found out what Mark had said to Mia. I didn't ask how. I figured someone finally filled her in. She told me she was sorry, genuinely sorry, but she didn't ask why I hadn't called the bank. She already knew. She said it wasn't about the loan anymore. She didn't even want it. Then she dropped it. I'm leaving. At first, I thought she meant for the day. Maybe she was taking a break. But no, she meant Oregon, a one-way ticket. She'd been accepted into a year-long wildlife rehab internship she applied for months ago, back when she still thought her life was stuck. She hadn't told anyone. Not our parents, not even me. I didn't say anything. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't expect to feel relief. She was the only one in that family who still had something real in her. Maybe the only one who could walk away without dragging a trail of fire behind her. She said she wasn't telling them until she was already gone. I told her Mia would miss her. She promised to come to Mia's recital the following weekend. It was going to be Mia's first time performing a solo in front of a crowd. She'd been practicing a little piano song every day after school. But the recital never happened, because 2 nights later, at 3:14 a.m., my phone rang. It was Jenna. She sounded panicked, not crying, just sharp. "You need to check your email right now." Still half asleep, I opened it. There was no subject line. The sender was some random Gmail address I didn't recognize. Inside were screenshots, bank documents, transaction logs, loan agreements, all with my name. I scrolled through them in silence. My name, my address, my social. $7,200 transferred from an online lending company. The funds went to a pet supply wholesaler in New Jersey. In the transaction notes, it said, "Business startup package, mobile pet grooming van supplies, signage, Baker." The business name used Jenna's middle name. I just stared. Then I realized it was Mark. He didn't just steal money. He didn't just lie. He had taken Jenna's idea, forged my identity, and used the loan to set up the business himself. All while letting Jenna believe her application had been rejected. All while letting Mom call me crying, thinking I'd backed out. All while acting like he didn't care. That smug post he made sitting poolside with his stupid sunglasses captioned "Family First." He probably posted it after the money hit his account. I called the lender in the morning and filed a fraud report. I froze my credit, talked to a lawyer quietly, carefully. I knew better than to make noise too soon because this wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about Mia and Jenna. And every single year I spent cleaning up after people who never bothered to clean up after themselves. I didn't tell my parents. Not yet. Let them keep believing Mark was brilliant. Let them post under his Facebook pictures about how proud they were. I was going to wait for the moment they needed something, a favor, a rescue, and then I'd show them the cost. By the end of that week, I had already filed the fraud report, frozen my accounts, and spoken to a lawyer who specialized in family-related financial abuse. She didn't even sound surprised when I explained what had happened. Said she sees it all the time. Siblings using siblings, parents pretending not to notice. Jenna stayed quiet on her end. She was flying out in less than 48 hours and kept her phone on silent. But she sent me everything I needed. Emails, links, timestamps, even the ad that showed up in her inbox. It was almost too easy to connect the dots. Mark hadn't even tried to cover his tracks. The fake email he used for the loan had his nickname in it. a nickname only we called him growing up. Still, I hadn't told my parents. I was saving that. Mia's recital was on Saturday. She wore a blue dress she picked out herself with tiny music notes stitched along the bottom hem. I sat in the third row of the school auditorium with my phone ready to record and watched her walk up to the piano without a hint of the usual sparkle she carried. She looked around once, probably for Jenna. She played the song perfectly, every note. But when it ended, she didn't smile. She didn't even bow. She just walked off stage and sat down quietly next to her teacher. That's when I made the decision. I dropped Mia off at school early Monday morning, told her I'd be picking her up later for a surprise, and drove straight to my parents' house. I didn't call ahead. I didn't knock. I waited in the driveway until Mom finally opened the door in her robe, holding a mug with Nunna One Grandma on it. I handed her the manila envelope. No explanation, just said, "You should read this before you decide whose side you're still on." She asked if I was serious. I walked away. Inside that envelope was everything. Copies of the fake loan under my name, proof of the funds going to a pet grooming supplier in New Jersey, a copy of the PayPal receipt with Mark's email address on it. I also included the police report and the fraud case number. By noon, I got my first call from Dad. Didn't answer. Then Mom, voicemail, long rambling. She started with, "Monica, honey," and ended with, "You're tearing this family apart." In between were a dozen excuses, a half-baked theory that maybe Mark had been confused about what he was doing, that it couldn't have been intentional. Not one mention of Mia, not one word about Jenna. Later that day, I saw that Mark's business page had quietly disappeared from Facebook, the one he had proudly called J&M Grooming, like Jenna had been involved. He'd even used an old childhood picture of the two of them in the About Us section. That was gone now. Instead, he posted a vague status on his personal page. "People will always try to tear you down when you're doing better than them. Keep grinding, stay silent, prove them wrong." Mom commented under it with a string of red hearts and said, "Proud of you no matter what." I took a screenshot and closed the app. That night, I sat Mia down and told her we were going to visit a new school. One with an art program that didn't treat creativity like a side hobby, a place where her drawings wouldn't be called pointless. She asked if Aunt Jenna would be there. I told her no. Jenna had already left for Oregon that morning. She texted me from the airport. "Take care of Mia. I'm proud of you." I told Mia that too. The next morning, I called my accountant and canceled every financial tie I still had to my parents. I had once added them to my backup card in case of emergencies. They'd used it last month to buy concert tickets and dinner. I shut it down. I removed them as emergency contacts on my business accounts, changed the lockbox code at my office. I didn't even tell them. Let them find out when they tried to reach. Mark called 3 days later. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. All he said was, "You're going to regret this." I didn't play it twice. I blocked him and deleted it. If there was any regret, it was that I hadn't done this sooner. The week after I blocked Mark, things got quiet. Too quiet. No more calls from Dad. No voicemails from Mom. Not even one of those weird passive-aggressive texts she usually sent, pretending everything was fine while slipping in guilt like seasoning. It was like the whole family had gone radio silent. I should have known that meant they were planning something. Friday afternoon, I got an email from a lawyer, not mine, some guy with a last name that sounded like a real estate agency. Apparently, Mark was disputing the fraud claim. He claimed the loan was a family business arrangement and that I had given him permission over the phone. There was no call, no agreement, no text, no document, nothing. And worse, he was using my parents to back up the story. They submitted statements saying I had verbally supported Mark's idea, that I had once mentioned wanting to invest in something animal-related, and that Mark just took initiative. They weren't just covering for him. They were trying to trap me in it. I called my lawyer. She wasn't surprised. Said we'd be fine. Said people like Mark always try to turn the tables once they're backed into a corner. But still, I sat there for a full hour afterward, staring at nothing, while Mia colored next to me, humming a song from a cartoon I didn't recognize. That night, I told her we were going on a weekend trip. Just the two of us. I booked a last-minute Airbnb by the coast, packed a couple of bags, and drove 3 hours without checking my phone once. We walked along the beach, ate overpriced grilled cheese. She brought her sketchbook again. First time in weeks. When we got home Sunday evening, there was a letter taped to my front door. It was from Mom. She didn't even bother putting it in an envelope, just folded a printed Word doc in half and taped it to the glass like a notice from the city. In it, she said she was heartbroken over how far I'd taken things, that family doesn't press charges, that Mark had always looked up to me, and that this was just me misunderstanding his intentions. But the last paragraph was the worst part. She said Mia had always been sensitive, and that maybe it was time I stopped putting so many big dreams in her head, that it was setting her up for disappointment. I sat down on the floor, letter still in hand, while Mia ran to her room to show me a drawing she made of the beach. And that's when I made the final decision. I wasn't cutting them off. They were already gone. Monday morning, I closed out the last shared file in the family Google Drive. They had my name on it. I deleted every photo I was in from the shared album. I left the family group chat without saying a word. Changed my locks just in case. When the lawyer called later that day and asked how I wanted to proceed, I said plainly, "We press charges." Jenna texted me that evening from Oregon. "I heard, are you okay?" I told her the truth. I felt like I could finally breathe. And then she said something I wasn't expecting. "You know, he never wanted the grooming van. He just didn't want me to have it first." It made everything even clearer. This was never about business. This was about control, about ego, about them needing me to stay where they were comfortable, always giving, never asking, never fighting back. But now they had lost that version of me, and soon they'd lose everything else too. 3 weeks after filing the official fraud complaint, I got the confirmation. The case was moving forward. The lender accepted the evidence. Mark was being investigated for identity theft. The funds were flagged. A court date was being scheduled. I didn't tell anyone in the family. Let them hear it from the knock on their door, the call they didn't expect, the paper they had to sign. I was done doing the emotional labor of warning people about the consequences of their own choices. What surprised me most was how quickly my parents turned from silent to desperate. Mom called from a new number, left a voicemail. She was sobbing again, but this time it sounded hollow, almost rehearsed. She said they were being dragged into something they never asked for, that they were just trying to keep the family together, and now they were at risk of losing everything. Then came the email from Dad, a full page, no greeting, no apology, just a request for financial help. Apparently, their mortgage was in trouble. That same week, I got a message from Mia's school. There had been an incident. Some girl pushed Mia on the playground. When the teacher asked why, the girl said, "Because her uncle's a thief and her family's in trouble." The girl's mom works at the bank. She'd overheard something at home. Mia didn't cry. Didn't even tell me herself. The teacher did. Mia said she didn't care. But that night, I saw her quietly put away her sketchbook again. That was it. I didn't call Mom. I didn't respond to Dad. I didn't send money. Not even when they started messaging from fake Facebook accounts, pretending to be distant relatives. I blocked each one. And then I made it permanent. I updated my will. I removed their names from every document they were ever on. Insurance, business emergency contacts, Mia's guardianship forms. I called the school, had them taken off the authorized pickup list, changed passwords, closed the old email I'd had since college, told Mia we were starting fresh. The final nail came when Mom showed up outside Mia's school. She wasn't allowed on school grounds, not anymore, but she stood across the street holding a bouquet of grocery store flowers. When Mia saw her through the window, she didn't run out. She didn't wave. She looked at me and asked, "Can we just go home?" I said yes. Mom never came back. 2 months later, the fraud case closed. The lender dropped the claim against me, confirmed Mark as the sole responsible party. He was ordered to pay it back. He didn't show up to the hearing. A warrant was issued. His Facebook disappeared. I never heard from him again. Jenna still writes from Oregon. She's working with injured foxes now. Sent Mia a birthday card with a hand-drawn raccoon on the front. Mia taped it above her bed. As for me, I got accepted into a small business mentorship program for single mothers. I didn't even apply. One of my clients nominated me. The new school accepted Mia on a full scholarship. They saw her artwork during the tour and offered her a spot on the spot. She's drawing again. She's laughing again. Sometimes she still asks why people like Uncle Mark are mean, why Grandma never says sorry. I tell her the truth. Some people only know how to love you when you're small, when you stay quiet, when you give without asking for anything back. But once you stand up, once you ask for more, they can't love that version of you. And that's okay, because we love this version of us. And that's the end.